Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interactions with the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Area Interreligious Ministries in cooperation with KNVA. Join us now for Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Karl, Gronberg, host of the program. We're delighted that you're here with us during this time of holidays as we look forward in our community to celebrating Thanksgiving. Have you noticed around town and maybe in your home, as you've gone into the shopping centers, you've noticed the lights? And on this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue, we want to talk about Festival of Lights. But we want to put that Festival of Lights in the context of the nation of India. Vandana, welcome. Glad to have you here. And
Thank you.
Welcome.
Glad to be
Thank
here.
you for coming and being with
Thank you,
us.
Karl.
And I'm going to have you say your names correctly, but I apologize. The Swedish tongue doesn't do so well, but forgive me for that. But
My name is Anil Maheshwari.
Thank you.
And I'm Vandana Agarwal, and I'm so used to having my name mispronounced.
Well, I think we have problems even with Gronberg sometimes pronouncing that. I met you as we were walking together for peace, the Gandhi walk
Correct.
Down Congress Avenue.
Yes.
And I was so taken with that group of people, including you, that I asked if you'd come and be with us in Austin Faith Dialogue and talk about your lives, your Hindu faith,
That's correct.
and also about the nation of India. So tell us a little bit about who you are and where you came from. You've been in the United States a long time.
Yes, I've been in Austin for 26 years and in the U.S. for 28 years. Both my kids were born here. So.
And have you gone back to India frequently?
Yeah, we go back every 3 years or so, 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
And have you enjoyed the transition of becoming a part of not only the United States, but of Austin?
I have loved it.
Yeah.
I love Austin.
You look like you've enjoyed it.
Yes.
And Neil, how about you?
Yes, I was born in India, and I moved here about 18 years ago, and my family and I we live here. Our one child was born in India, and one was born here, and I've been in Austin since 2000, so almost 7, 8 years.
We mentioned about Gandhi and the walk. Why is Gandhi so important to the people of India?
Gandhi is the father of the nation. So Gandhi is just like Washington would be, George Washington would be for America, and probably a little more, because Gandhi has also inspired people like Martin Luther King and several other leaders, Nelson Mandela. So he is still the gold standard or platinum standard in terms of thought. And also there is, he connects with ahimsa, which is non-violence, the truth, search for truth, satyagraha, and the sense of duty, dharma. So he brings in the Hindu values together as a way of living in a perfect, good way.
Yes, and Gandhi also was an influence on the entire world. As you mentioned, some of the leaders of our nation have been influenced by Gandhi and nonviolence. But at the very heart of Gandhi was the Hindu faith.
The Hindu faith, the Hindu belief in nonviolence, which is kind of throughout our religion, which is what inspired him to do that, fighting against the British, and that's part of the reason why he is thought of as the father of the nation.
But his fight against the British and colonialism was not a fight in the, like we call the fight against terror.
Correct.
This was a different type of fight.
This was a totally different type of fight. It was like resistance and non-cooperation, just not doing the things that would make the British government run smoothly. So there was no actual violence involved.
There's a real sense of sacredness about life in the Hindu community. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Sacred is the key word for Indian life.
And that goes for all of creation.
All of creation, living and non-living. Kan kan mein Bhagwan, we see in the smallest particle there is God.
The manifestation of holiness, the sacredness in every element of creation.
Every element of creation.
You mentioned before we came on the air that as your children were growing up and they would invite you to come to their school and talk about India and the Hindu community, you said that you like to dispel some myths. So on Austin Faith Dialogue, go ahead. This is your opportunity.
Yeah, I would, and you'd be surprised, Karl, that some of these myths are actually incorporated in the textbooks. probably throughout the United States, that the basic things they say about Hinduism is that we worship cows and we have multiple idols, and I mean, it's like half-truths. Yeah, we respected the cow because it was instrumental in so many of the life functions of the time. You know, they gave milk, and even the cow dung was used as a very biodegradable fuel. So yeah, we respected the cow for that reason, but we don't worship it as a, except in the sense that we think God is in every being, whether animate or inanimate. So in that sense, maybe, but it's not the basic tenet of Hinduism that we worship cows. Yeah,
a word that you use that I think is so important is respect.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of part of the expression of your faith is respect then for creation, all forms of creation, and then for all people.
Yes.
What have you done as a Hindu community to show that respect since you've been a part of the Austin community? What does the Hindu community say to the greater community about how we can grow in nonviolence and respect?
Oh, the Gandhi Peace Walk was certainly one big way, and that's where we connected. So that's one way. I think there is M.K. Gandhi Institute in Tennessee, not in here, but I think some of us are taking inspiration from what they're doing at, it's run by the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. So, and there is a Gandhi Peace March also in Houston. And I think in so many cities, Gandhi's message is relevant, and the number of people coming to those kind of walks is growing. In other ways, in Houston there is a Gandhi Public Library, where Gandhi literature is being made available. So I think as the community comes together, as the need for non-violence is appreciated even more given the current geopolitical circumstances, I think that Gandhi movement is bound to grow. And really I appreciate your calling us and discussing about Gandhi, because you are part of helping Gandhi movement grow.
That's very kind of you. But we are the beneficiaries, and one of the things in Austin Faith Dialogue for almost 20 years now, we've been inviting people from the Austin community to come and share their lives, their faith, and their story. And we're honored to have you here, and we thank you for that. Tell us about the nation of India. This is a huge nation. India
is a great nation. India has been there for as an entity for thousands of years. A lot of the Indian mythology goes back 3,000 years before Christ. Gautam Buddha, who's completely documented, goes back like 500 years before Christ. Rama, Krishna, the Harappa civilization, they go like 5,000 years before Christ. So there's a lot of history, and there is a lot of pride in the richness of the history. A lot of, we were talking the other time about our scriptures, Veda, Upanishads, they've been written like thousands of years ago.
Let's talk a little bit about that, your scriptures.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned when we were off the air that the scriptures are numerous. They would fill rooms, is that correct?
Yes.
Well,
how many scriptures are there?
Well, there's 4 Vedas mainly,
Yeah.
but the Upanishads, there is so many of them. And then we have the Bhagavad Gita, and then we have the Ramayana, which is more like an epic story rather than a scripture.
Do you share those scriptures and with your family? How do you live out, we call it the piety of our faith as a Christian. How do you live out the Hindu faith with your children and as a family?
3 ways. One is every morning we try to do sort of puja, the offering to the gods. Every Sunday we like to go to the temple and be among the larger community, pray to the gods in temple and do that. And I would say a third way is to encourage them to read Bhagavad Gita and encourage reading all the literature.
And do you want to add to that?
And I took my kids to a spiritual center called the Chinmaya Mission here.
Correct.
From the time they were 5 till they both graduated from high school, because I felt like they would do a much better job of, because they're specialized, and they're also, they like the whole Hindu faith, very accepting, very open-minded. We would have Christmas celebrations there, and so it's not like we just did Diwali, and they learned a lot there. And just by more than doing something every day in a ritualistic manner, I would more like in living of life, like we are at least vegetarians, which is not necessarily a trait of all Hindus, but it is a way of being nonviolent. But so my kids are vegetarians, and I mean I talk to them about the nonviolent aspects of Hinduism and what we believe in. So more in that sense than doing anything ritualistic.
It
and
has
do
seemed to
go.
me, as I've listened to these faith stories through the years, that there is such a connection between the cultural, historical experience of a family, such as your families, and the faith, that it becomes interwoven. There's a connection between these, that as people of India, this Hindu faith experience is just a part of who you are. And you mentioned about going and praying to the gods. To some people, that might be a little foreign in light of what you said about we have one God, but we see God in all these different ways. When you talk about praying to the gods, what are you saying?
Well, that's a very good point. We believe in one supreme being, but she also, like you were saying before, we rolled onto the that we could worship anything. We could worship the smallest thing. We could worship you, although you're not Hindu.
Yeah.
Anyone who is doing good is Devta. Dene wala is Devta. Whoever gives is a God, kind of thing, if you think about it. Who is giving us new knowledge, benefiting us in our development, is a God to us. So we could worship anybody. So therefore, you know, we have goddess of the goddesses with small g, and the gods with small g. There's a lot of them. We can have goddess Saraswati, like goddess of knowledge. We have Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. So we have goddess Kali, which is the goddess of strength.
It seems to me it's a matter of vocabulary once
Correct.
again. It's a matter of language.
Yes.
And because as we go towards Thanksgiving Day in this
Yes.
culture, we think about giving thanks to God for food and
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
work and for
Yes.
all of for each other,
Yes.
for husband, wife, children, all of these, and to recognize that they are all a sign, if you will, of God's goodness and God's mercy. One of the things you talked to me about was the Festival of Lights. Now, as part of this culture, and you've really become a part of the culture, and you mentioned about Christmas, that's coming in a few
Yes,
weeks,
yes.
but it's always these lighting these
Yes.
candles and turning on the lights. Talk about the Festival of Lights. What does it mean for the Hindu community and for the people of India to have a Festival of Lights?
Festival of Lights is the biggest festival in India. This festival transcends age and, you know, families and societies, but also transcends languages, linguistic barriers or linguistic communities in India. It is the one festival that's celebrated around the world, wherever Hindus are. And what it means is lights, a celebration of good over evil. There is certain good mythological stories around, you know, Lord Rama coming back after winning the war against the evil guys, and it happened to be no moon day. There was no light. So the residents of the city, Amavasya, so the residents of the city, you know, lit up the earthen lamp with pure butter in there, and the whole city was lit up.
Wow.
Ever since, for about 3,000 years, the tradition has been to, on that day, light up the lamps, and now of course we have lights, electric lights.
But when I was a child, we still used the
Yes.
little clay lamps.
Clay
You
lamps.
still use
Hundreds
the
of
lamps.
them, and we just line.
That must have been beautiful.
It was absolutely gorgeous.
Kind of like the luminaries that we
Yeah.
have here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Because they actually flicker, right?
yeah,
As
they,
against
and they flickered, and all the homes were lined. You know, the edges were lined with hundreds of those little clay lamps.
You mentioned that languages, that there
Correct.
are many different languages in India.
That
It's
is
a
true.
land of 1 billion people, is that correct?
about 1.08.
So says the
Well, you're not going to quibble with that. That's a large
That is
amount
correct.
of population,
Yeah. Correct.
over 1 billion people.
Exactly.
And so they would have different languages.
That is true.
So something like the Festival of Lights kind of brings people together, it gives them a sense of unity.
Absolutely. And this is the, you know, symbol. You were saying symbols are powerful. Festival lights is a powerful symbol. In fact, you could, if you don't say it's a Diwali, like which is the Indian festival of lights, Christmas could be seen as a festival of lights. Lights always cheer you, right? So that's
Absolutely.
this one festival, victory over good over evil, of good over evil. That transcends all barriers within India.
As you probably know, the Christian community does not know the date when Jesus was born. Some have tried to find that, but December the 25th was selected for just this reason.
Right,
heard
right.
that.
Because in the
Yes.
darkness of the northern areas
Right.
That's true.
of northern hemisphere, at this time the sun is starting to come back.
Right.
And so that whole idea of light is kind of a bonding type of experience to give, like when you were holding those lamps, the
Right,
flickering
right.
lamps, to give hope to people.
Exactly.
What,
So it's so
what would you do
similar.
in the Festival of Lights for family? What would you as a mother do? Would there be anything
As
special?
a mother, yeah, I would make sure to make several different sweets, Indian sweets for the kids. Yeah,
sounds
and then
familiar.
fireworks were a very big thing in India. now over here also we buy fireworks during 4th of July, and most Indians do. We have those sparklers, and you know, of course, we try to follow the laws and not do too many of them, the dangerous kind. But in India, it was like a whole 2 weeks of just these, you know, kids playing with fireworks. So we did do like mostly with sparklers for my kids. I used to buy.
We hear about poverty as well as wealth in India. What about, will this engage even those who are poor? Does this engage all segments of the population?
I'm so glad you brought this up. We must remember the poor, because we believe the poor are as, you know, valuable human beings as the rich. I mean, at the social level, financial level, yes, there are differences, but they're all children of God. And they would be, on Diwali day, we celebrate with everybody. No child goes without, you know, new clothes, or you know, depending on how rich you are, you can afford to buy new utensils, new jewelry, new clothes, great foods, and moms are critical.
The festival light sounds very much like
everybody.
Christmas.
Right, and we
everybody.
take the kids out to shop rather than give them gifts. As a child, that's what we do.
And we exchange sweets at the end of the day, and all the, you know, poor people, they receive gifts if they come to the houses.
Now, for the Hindu community, this festival lights comes in November.
Correct.
October or November.
October, November.
It's according to the Hindu calendar.
Hindu calendar.
According to Hindu calendar.
Lunar calendar. We have the lunar calendar.
Okay, and it's more than one day. Is it a week or two, or does it?
Actually, that's a good point. Diwali is a mood. Just like from Thanksgiving, you begin to get into the Christmas mood.
Right.
Diwali is, you say, oh, Diwali holidays are coming. Diwali holidays are coming. All this literally, it's just like Christmas. Diwali, D-I-W-A-L-I. Diva stands for the earthen lamp.
The clay lamp.
Oh, that's
so
the
it's
lamp.
like the day of those Diva, the lights.
Diwali.
Literally, it's the festival of lights if you translate it.
Diwali or Deepavali also,
Deepavali
which is the
also,
same
you can
thing.
say, yeah.
Okay. Now, what I'm also wondering about is, since you mentioned that you had lamps when you were a child.
Yes, clay lamps.
We don't want to date you.
Me too, actually, me too.
But and you also.
Yes,
but now you have electricity. Do you have flashlights, or do you still use the lamps, or what do you do? With
mix of everything. Nothing goes away. Just like when television comes, radio doesn't go away, and internet comes, the television, radio all stay.
Yeah.
So you have earthen lamps, because now there's such innovation, and even other earthen lamps, so beautifully colorful, you know, earthen lamps are there. Plus all electric lights, candle lights, all kinds of lights we use to create. Essentially, the idea is to brighten up the atmosphere. It has to be always on that no moon day. Tomorrow, for example, on November 9th, is the no moon day, and that's when the Diwali is celebrated.
But it will rotate then. It'll depend upon the calendar.
Exactly.
So it has been.
The Hindu, a lot of times it's in October.
In October.
End October, early November.
Now, when you take that kind of symbolic event as the Festival of Lights, and you take that and celebrate that, and then you see what the people in this culture do, getting ready for Thanksgiving and family gathering together, hopefully, and having community Thanksgiving services and feeding people and doing that type. How does that give you a connection as people who were born in India, grew up there, and then came here? Does that give you a sense of participation in the tapestry of this country?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, my kids we have gone and served, and you know, I just don't feel like, you know, we are different. We participate in everything. They did Thanksgiving. We do Christmas, just like we have a tree. We have gifts. You know, so yeah, the kids are lucky because they get to do the Hindu as well as the Christian. I mean, I used to have Easter egg hunts in my backyard. So yeah,
you immersed yourself in all of this. That's great.
Absolutely.
It's like our children who go to the same schools, right? Like every other kid. So they like to celebrate everything, and we learn those from them. Halloween,
Halloween,
Christmas,
big thing,
Thanksgiving, everything.
What I want our viewing audience to realize is that for people like yourselves of the Hindu community and of India, that you come and you give this gift of what you have as people, but you also bring this faith, and this faith that shares respect and appreciation for all humanity. What are some of the challenges as you look at your native country of India? What are some of the challenges India is experiencing now, and how does this festival lights, if you will, speak to some of those challenges?
Tremendous. I mean, India has had, unfortunately, this thing of the caste system, social caste system, whereby profession, they said some are Brahmins are like the, you know, those people of knowledge, the priestly class, and then warrior class, and then the business class, and the sort of the land.
And this is something that's been passed down.
That's been passed down, and that's Gandhi fought against that like anything. the untouchables of the lowest class, so lowest of the lowest, and Gandhi renamed them as Harijan. Harijan means the people of God. He literally transformed them with people of God, and he would be with them. He would spend time with them, so all the other leaders will say, what is Gandhi doing? Okay, well, now we have to go and talk to those folks. So he did everything to bring up the social level of those people. And as we were saying, Diwali is a great time where everybody comes together, everybody celebrates, and on that day you don't see the other person as lower caste or higher caste. If they come to your door, you share sweets with them, etc.
It really gives that sense of unity of people. I'm wondering about the caste system, because we hear about that and we read about that in our books, and those of us who've never visited India. Is that something, do you think, will be changing in the future? Will, you mentioned about education. It's very competitive in India, and that you have to, will people be able to, through education, change and move out of one segment of society to another? What
exactly.
do you think? I think it's already happening, for one thing. And when this caste system started, it was not supposed to be by birth. It was supposed to be by your inclination. So it was never supposed to divide people in the way that it has ended up dividing people. And right now, yeah, because we used to get married only within our own caste, and now I see all the time arranged marriages even, which is another thing that happens a lot in India, where they marry intercaste and the untouchables are coming up. So yeah, it's disappearing. And it's really the hardest for that lowest segment. The other 3 or 4, it really doesn't matter. They're already pretty well off, and there's no real discrimination against them. So yeah, there's only the untouchables.
And to address the issue of education, certainly, when India got independent in 1947. We were a British colony just like America was. And at that point, the first Prime Minister of India, whose was very fond of children, whose birthday is celebrated as Children's Day, and it'll come on November 14th. And he really believed in developing human potential. So he immediately set out to create certain national or international quality institutions. And he said those will be the pinnacle of Indian education system. They'll call Indian Institutes of Technology, Indian Institutes of Management, Indian Institute of Science, etc. And so then there's all feeder system of universities and colleges and schools underneath it. So that created a tremendous amount of pathway, roadmap for people to excel and get into those institutions. And people from those institutions are second to none in the world.
You sound very hopeful about India and some of the changes that will be happening in your nation. And some of this comes from the young people, it sounds like. The young people have a vision of, well, we want to relate to people who are outside our particular prescribed caste, and we're going to be able to do that. You also have a language that I'm fascinated. Someone has asked me, what is the largest English-speaking nation in the world? And I was thinking, what nation would that be? And then they said, India.
Correct.
And yet, the English is the language in India, but then you also have other languages. Is that correct?
Correct. India is multilingual, and each language has multiple rich literature and culture underneath. So there are about 25 official languages of India enshrined in the Constitution. But the real glue that binds India is the English language. That's still the language that all the linguistic people, upper cream of that whichever subculture they like to understand.
The politicians, the culture is really bound together by English. Is that correct?
It is. English is a large part of what holds India together. A lot of official business is transacted in English language.
And I think also the Festival of Lights. I think these kinds of things that bring people together and hold people together. When you mentioned about how you really felt welcome in America and how you came into this, but you also have this Hindu community. How do you keep that kind of cultural experience in Austin, Texas, and keeping the Hindu community going? We had the Gandhi Walk, but what are some of the other things that
we have several temples now, Hindu temples. And since we've always, we don't like to isolate ourselves. I have American friends, and I go with them to the temple. We go together and celebrate. So to me, there's no real line of demarcation. I mean, I can have
your neighbors, your friends would go with you to the temple.
Exactly. I have a very close friend, Pam, and she just loves to do everything with me. So, and we have our temples are open. Anybody can come in, just like churches. Unlike some that I've heard where you're not allowed to bring anybody that belongs to another faith. So it's not been difficult at all.
So
to,
the faith does not separate people, but brings people
exactly,
together. Is that right?
Exactly. That's a very good way of putting it.
What would be your hope for the future for this country? You mentioned about hope for India, but what would be your hope for this country?
My hope for this country would be more unity by way of faith. Exactly. I think we are getting into very divisive politics nowadays. So that would be my greatest hope. In many ways, this country is so great, and some of this has crept in ever since I've been here. I've seen it creeping in more and more at every election, and my greatest hope is that we take that out of politics and people learn to live together.
And my hope would be is that we could learn what you all celebrate and see the divinity and the light of God in each and every human being.
That is, of course, of paramount importance.
And then we could truly give thanks.
If we do that, then all the problems will solve themselves.
And I would say Gandhi's message is even more relevant to this country now than it was in Martin Luther King's day. I mean, every time there's challenge, Gandhi's described a process, which is non-violence. First of all, believe in non-violence. Go with the truth. No obfuscation of truth, no falsities will stand. Satyamev Jayate, the truth alone will win. So that message I think this country needs more and more. Go back on its righteous stand as the greatest country in the world. That's my hope, and it will happen.
And for that to happen, there has to be some sort of ability to listen to one another, to dialogue with one another, and to hear one another's stories.
Yes.
And as we listen to those stories, then we grow in an appreciation for each other. And it seems to me that's the role of people of faith. You mentioned about your children. Your children are pretty well, they're growing.
They both graduated from UT.
They both are Longhorns. They graduated from the university.
Yes, my son last year.
What did they think of this emphasis on football? Did they get onto this?
Not very much. My son loves basketball.
More basketball. But they are Longhorn
the
graduates.
They're both
and
Longhorns.
did they stay in Austin?
No, they're both out of Austin. My daughter is in New York and my son is in Dallas working. Yes.
It's wonderful. And your children are younger?
Yeah, my older one, she's a Longhorn. She'll be hopefully graduating this year. She's a senior at UT. And my younger one is a middle schooler. And I hope they stay in Austin, but I think anywhere where they go in the world, they'll do well and spread the message of hope and peace everywhere.
Well, as we celebrate the Festival of Lights, and as we move in the holiday season here in Austin, for Christians and for people of faith, what greeting would you want to give to the Austin community as a person who has said, this is my home now, but I come from India and I'm of the Hindu faith? What would you like to say?
What would I like to say?
Would you want to say to them, happy holidays?
Happy holidays. Happy holidays, happy Diwali, to all my Indian friends, and